Hi, I'm Jason Rivas.
And I'm Vasilios Alexio. We're FirmPlay, a new employer branding tool, and we're next on the RecTech podcast.
All right, welcome to the RecTech podcast, the recruiting technology show. I'm your host, Chris Russell. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a consultant who helps job boards and HR tech startups with marketing promotion and navigating the world of digital recruiting. On this new show, I'll be talking with lots of recruiting technology vendors and keep you up to date on all the online recruiting headlines. If your firm would like to be interviewed for an upcoming show, pitch me by emailing cr@chrisrussell.io. I'm looking for startups, job boards, even recruiters who want to share how they use digital recruiting in their day-to-day jobs. My guests today are the founders of FirmPlay out of Boston. FirmPlay software makes it easy for talent acquisition professionals to build an authentic employer brand that attracts top talent. Crowdsource the employee experience by turning your stories into powerful branding content. Then promote your brand by embedding content on your careers page, sharing to social media, and amplifying its reach with employee brand ambassadors. The result is it's easy to tell your company's unique story, engage employees in the process, and above all, attract and retain top talent. You can learn more about them at FirmPlay.com. Just a quick side note for this show, I'm now an advisor to FirmPlay, so in the interest of transparency, I need to mention that as well. FirmPlay is an exciting product, and I was thrilled when the guys asked me to come on board as their advisor. So Jason and Vasilios, welcome to the show. How are you guys doing today?
Thanks, Chris. Good. Thrilled to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Chris.
Glad to have you. It's been a long time coming. We've been talking for over a year, I guess, since we first met each other through a mutual connection. And FirmPlay is doing some cool things now. So let's get started by going into your backgrounds first. I want to know who you guys are, what you used to do, and how'd you get started into the online recruiting world?
Yeah, sure. So, Chris, to piggyback on kind of your side note, we were also pretty thrilled when you said yes to join us. So that goes both ways. The excitement to be part of the team. So glad to have you on board. This is Vasilios, one of the co-founders of FirmPlay, obviously, along with Jason. I guess a little bit of my background. I am from Vermont. Grew up there, but was born in Greece. And grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. I'll tell you why this is important to mention in a minute. But just kind of grew up in and around a restaurant or specifically a pizza place, which a lot of Greeks have here in the U.S. So I guess fast forwarding a bit, after Vermont, went to college at Harvard, got my MBA at Dartmouth's business school called Tuck. And before and after Tuck, I was in the world of management consulting, so working with companies, helping them kind of navigate strategic issues and other kind of really cool but really difficult problems. The whole time, I didn't really, I'll say I really liked the work, but I didn't think it was kind of what I wanted to do forever. And I just somehow always felt myself going back into the corporate world at every kind of opportunity. To do recruiting and participate in on-campus stuff. I always somehow ended up going back there. And I just thought to myself, I know there's a ton of really cool companies out there, smaller ones, right, that I'd want to work for. How do I get my hands on information about, what those companies, which companies those are, what it's like to work there, et cetera, et cetera. And that's kind of what got me into the world of recruiting was my own, struggles or challenges with that and just sheer curiosity to see if I can make the process better. Mm-hmm. So I'll stop there, a little bit long-winded, but I guess one other thing I'll add to that is the part where my parents' business comes into play is that was kind of the mental model of work for me was to kind of have my own thing and build my own thing from scratch. So that's why that, paired with what I saw in the recruiting world was kind of what enticed me to or convinced me to take the plunge and start my own business with Jason. So I'll stop there now for real.
Yeah, it's a cool little story there. Jason, how about you?
I'll see if I can make my story it's a little bit shorter here. But I'm originally actually from New York City, but grew up mostly in New Jersey, so the Northeast. I did my undergrad down at Rollins, so a small liberal arts school down in Florida. I worked in public accounting at PwC in New York City for a number of years. And similar to Vasilios, I kind of was always involved with campus recruiting and helping out. And then took a break and went back to business school to Dartmouth, Tuck School of Business, where I met Vasilios. And then afterwards, I ended up, through some sort of weird happenstance or circumstance, I ended up in investment banking down in New York City. And so I did that for a number of years, helping company raise debt and equity products and also some M&A work, but also found that a lot of the big company culture just wasn't a great fit for me. And so part of my decision process with leaving investment banking a couple of years ago was looking at different workplaces and specifically tech startups, and found a hard time getting a sense for what these companies were like and what they were about and what I would enjoy, or even should I waste my time kind of applying to companies, be a good fit? Would this be the right culture for me? And so, decided to actually, why don't I just take the plunge here and try to create my own company along with Vasilios to solve that problem that I was experiencing as I was going through the job search. And so the more we learned about how companies kind of do that and showcase themselves, the more we found that there was an opportunity here to help companies do it a little bit better.
Yep.
So we kind of jumped into business for ourselves and haven't looked back.
No, it's not the way to go. It's the way to go. I mean, entrepreneurship is not for everyone, but it's for me and for you guys, I think it's a calling out there, and glad to connect with fellow entrepreneurs, and looking forward to our relationship here. But so let's get back to FirmPlay. Talk about the problem that it solves, I guess. So why don't you give us a quick overview of what it does and what?
Yeah, so I guess I'll start with the problem. There's a real short answer to this, and then a longer one for context. But to put it simply, I mean, how do you, as a potential workplace, a potential employer, stand out against your competitors and attract top talent? That's the challenge that I think all companies are struggling with, especially ones that are super high growth and in a competitive market, talent wise. The longer answer to that, or some of the context, I mean, the way that top talent today really thinks about where they work it's just totally different from where it was 10, 20 years ago. So back in the 90s, it was newspaper ads, and then starting to digitize those in the form of just kind of basic online job postings, and then fast forward to now, and those are sure, you have to have your job postings out there, but top talent, and I keep saying top talent because these are the folks that really have opportunities, the ones that are kind of picky or super picky, I would say. They really care about more than just the job. They care about, who am I going to be working with? What's the environment like? How am I going to learn? Who am I going to get, trained up by? I mean, what are the opportunities for me, right? They just really want to get a sense for the workplace. Again, they have options. So the challenge there is, if you're in talent acquisition, how do you convince those people to come work for you? And the answer is content. They care about seeing content related to all those questions that I just rattled off. The challenge for folks in talent acquisition is they're not marketers, they're not content creators traditionally, and now they have to be. So there's that challenge there, right? How do I create all that stuff when I haven't really done it before? And that's where we come in with our software. It's a way for these talent acquisition folks to start, playing this new game, right? The new reality in recruiting. And it helps them create content and market it. Happy to get into more of that, but that's kind of the overview of the problem, and a little bit about how we go about solving it.
Yeah, we'll talk more later about some of the features and benefits of the product. But talk first, if you can, just about employer branding overall. I mean, what general trends are you seeing? Maybe some best practices, worst practices. What are your thoughts on employer branding right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting field. Jason's also been working super close. I mean, we both have. We've worked with, at this point, over 100 companies, mostly in the tech field, but spreading out a little bit as well. But hundreds of companies and also tons of job seekers through our previous business, which we can talk about as well. But I mean, honestly, the trend for employer branding is for, I guess what I just said, is around content and how do you get content created. That's really, in a nutshell, what it is. The challenge is that, and this gets into kind of the best practices and worst practices, how do you put that content out there in a way that's authentic, in a way that reaches the right folks, all the kinds of things that you think about when you're marketing a product. It's similar. The product to marketing comparison has been made so much that at this point it might even be cliche, but really it is like marketing a product. It's just that the product is your workplace.
Yep.
So how do you make that authentic content? So best practices that we're seeing and that we always tell folks is you can't go wrong if you start with your employees. They're the lifeblood of your business, but that means they're also the lifeblood of your recruiting efforts. So start to get their experiences out there, even if it's really basic kind of Q&A kind of surveys that you can put on your careers page then. And basic kind of photos and nothing super polished, right? It's stuff that's kind of authentic and heartfelt. I think that's the best practice, and you absolutely can't go wrong with that. Now,
yeah, that's what job seekers want, right? They want authenticity and real.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, our antennas, I think, especially kind of younger generations up and coming now, I think the antenna go up or the radar kind of goes off when you see something that feels like an ad, when you see something that doesn't seem authentic. I think that really turns people off. So we always tell people it's totally okay. In fact, it's probably really good to put something out there that might be a little bit rough around the edges, but a little bit more authentic and less rehearsed. To the flip side of that, I mean, the worst practice is we see companies sometimes think that oh crap, I got to start with employer branding and I haven't really done anything. Let me call in, video production team, photo professional photography, and just really start to make this look like such a polished set of content on our workplace and put that out there. That'll really solve it. Yeah. But that really, again, that just kind of feels like an ad. So I guess that's kind of the flip side of the best practices that we see. I don't know, Jason, if you had some other things that you've seen out there.
No, that's a good summary. I guess the only thing I'd throw out there, I think, is definitely putting, and this relates to the authenticity point, but it's definitely about putting your employees out there at the forefront. And so two buzzwords that you hear a lot today are employee-generated content, right, which is the opposite of kind of the polished content that a production would create for you, and then also employee advocacy. So involving employees and actually promoting the content on your behalf, I think, are two really big trends here that have been happening for a few years, but I think are really starting to pick up steam. And what we're really starting to see companies come to us about is how do I get my employees A, talking about the workplace, and B, kind of promoting it and being an advocate on my behalf as talent acquisition and helping me sort of bring in people. So those are sort of two other points I'd add to that.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, Chris, just a different flavor on this. I mean, every single time we talk to a company, we ask them, how important is employer branding to you? And almost without fail, they say it's one of our top initiatives for the year. And I think that's only becoming more and more of a trend across, all employers. And the challenge is just, where do we start? And they kind of have a little bit of a scattershot approach sometimes, or they haven't really started, and it just feels overwhelming to start something like that when you're dealing with 20 or 50 recs staring at you in the face. So we always tell companies, just start small. Start with just getting some content based on what your employees are saying out there. And there's ways to do that. I mean, I just wrote a blog post on that the other day. So I think there's ways around it, but it's definitely easy to feel overwhelmed if, I guess, you haven't done this before, right? It can seem a lot harder than it is.
Yeah, that's where a lot of the product comes into play, because it really helps an employer to craft that content properly and keep it organized and really promote them, in a best practice way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of a template, I would say, or a template, both literally, like there's templates involved that kind of tell you, what kind of content to create, but it's also, I don't know, I liken it sometimes to a personal trainer, someone that kind of keeps you on task, is reminding you things you need to be doing. It just provides just an overall structure or framework to employer branding that you might not have or might not come up with on your own. So that's it's a little bit vague. We can get happy to get into some more of the details, but
let's get into the features and benefits. So if you had to describe, give the listeners a kind of a visual cue of what they see when they log into the product, if you would.
Yeah, Jason, you wanna jump on that one?
Sure. Yeah, I'll jump into there. I actually have the product open up here, so I can just give you a super high level view. But I think when you open it up, really where you start with the tool is actually, and you'll hear me say this over and over again, but your employees are the lifeblood of the platform. And so where you're really starting with the tool is adding your employees as contacts, which means they're kind of brand ambassadors in the system for you. And so what you start to do once you identify, and we help with this as well, so we do pretty in-depth onboarding sessions with clients that Vasilios handles. And so once you identify who might be good brand ambassadors for you to help promote kind of the brand and the culture, what you start doing is leveraging them to sort of create content and share content. And there's a couple of different buckets that we lump things into, but it's really around kind of employee stories or one piece of the content creation. There's also kind of crowdsourcing content from across the organization. So a lot of times, employees will be taking photos on their phones, whether it be in the workplace and inside the office or at offsite events. How do you start to get that content into your hands as a talent acquisition professional and start to leverage that for your own branding efforts? We can help kind of crowdsource that through the platform by leveraging your ambassadors. So that's really the content creation piece. And then once you start collecting authentic content and getting employees engaged in creating that, you can start to promote it through the platform. And so social media is obviously a huge component of that. So pushing content directly out to social, to your social channels, and then leveraging your employees, again, as brand advocates and having them also promote that content to their personal and professional social networks. I'd say are kind of the big overarching kind of workflows that you kind of do through the tool. I don't know if Vasilios, you wanted to add anything to that?
Oh yeah, no. I think that covers it pretty well. I mean, some of the stuff that we're trying to. I mean, we're always as a startup. I think we're always trying to get feedback from companies, right? And just keep it. We never think we have. This is it. We've got the final version. No more iterating, but it's definitely not the case. So we're really pretty hands-on and getting feedback all the time. And honestly, what Jason just described, it really is. Yeah, it's the core of the product, but there's a whole bunch of stuff that we've got in the pipeline for where this is going to evolve. I think to make it easier to use, to make it a little bit more seamless in terms of fitting into the existing workflows of talent acquisition professionals, as opposed to asking them to adopt new behavior and do things that they've never done before. So you could think about just ways that this tool can be a little bit smart on behalf of talent acquisition pros and kind of do things on its own.
Talk to us more about the current customers that you have now. You have a nice little impressive name of companies in the Boston area using it. So who are they and how are they using it overall kind of in their day-to-day activities across social media?
Yeah, I could take that. I spend a lot of time with our customers and just making sure they're getting the most out of it. So who's using this? I mean, I guess before I name names, so it's just the ideal customer, I think, or the one that we're targeting, right, that we're really trying to arm with this software is, at the moment, companies that are hiring a lot, experiencing a lot of growth, and are, in terms of size, between, on the low end, 100, 150 employees, up to several thousands of employees, maybe even up to 10,000 employees. And that so far has been a lot of companies in the tech space, just because they feel the burn, right? They're hiring really hard to get talent, and there's a lot of growth involved. And so help me, how do I get that talent? How do I showcase?
And they're typically very active on social media already, right? So
yeah, they've already got, they kind of have a handle on the social media side of things, and they have maybe a little bit of a following there that they can leverage. And so, kind of who's using it in terms of companies, I'd say a couple of companies in the Boston area, Constant Contact, Yesware, Buildium. So these are from smaller companies all the way up to the bigger ones like Constant Contact. Mm-hmm. And the way they're using it, sort of to describe some of the power users, a couple ways. I mean, one is we give every company that works with us in the tool a set, almost a library of what we call workplace stories, as Jason alluded to. And that's like a thematically based kind of collection of questions. So one is around, what's your engineering team like? What do you guys do for fun? What's your marketing team like? Why did you join? Et cetera, et cetera. And what we see companies doing now is just starting to build up content around that library of templates and workplace stories. So they're focusing on, as Jason said, they have a bunch of contacts in the system, and they're focusing on their champions, right? The employees at the company that really kind of live and breathe the culture, and they're getting them to answer these stories. They don't take a lot of time, but there's a huge ROI on those stories, because you can just, obviously it's easy to create them, and then it's pretty easy to just start putting them out there and having folks engage with them. Mm-hmm. So that's one is just creating those stories and snippets. And the other is really amplifying content. So there's a way that all of our clients can either amplify stuff that they've already posted themselves on there. So you can think about, as Jason said, all that media that's in the tool. You can post it out to social media on an ongoing basis. You can schedule stuff, and you can then, even if you haven't posted stuff, you can then start to amplify anything on your feeds through your employees, and just start making your content go viral. That a lot of companies are like, well, I really don't have, a huge following. I really don't have, tons of traffic to our website or our careers page. Mm-hmm. Help me out. And the answer, again, will probably sound like a broken record, but the answer always ends up being start with your employees. They're your biggest advocates, especially the ones that really love to work there, and just go from there. So those are kind of the two ways, creating those snippets and then really starting to amplify content through their employees.
Yep. And the product also kind of stores all that data for you as well, right? Stores your images, all the past pieces of content for you as well, right?
Yeah. So it does. That's a great point. So it does a couple of things. Just really basically just store stuff, right? Puts it all in one spot for you, and it helps, let you tag stuff to make it a lot easier to reuse stuff. And then the second thing is, the more you use it, the better you get in terms of identifying the content that's really resonating. So a lot of times you have a whole bunch of content, you have no idea, just what's the really valuable stuff, what's the stuff that talent is really going to love. But we give you metrics on really all the touch points with your content, whether that's stories or social media posts, et cetera. And from there, you can really start to say, okay, this is the content that I should be doing more of because it's working really well. We just got engagement through the roof when we posted this stuff. Or you could say, you know what, this other stuff really bombed. We thought it was going to be cool. Mm-hmm. We tried it. It didn't work out. Let's shift a bit the focus of the content that we're sharing. So it kind of guides you, again, almost like a personal trainer. It guides you a little bit in the direction of what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing.
It's like a social recruiting coach, huh?
Yeah, a little bit. Exactly. It's always good to have someone over your shoulder, right?
Yeah. So what are you hearing from your clients so far? I mean, what are they saying in terms of sort of the favorite pieces of it, or what's kind of the ROI of it overall?
One of the things that we've heard very recently, we actually had a client come up to us last week and say, "Holy crap! The user portal, the part where the employees can kind of see all the things that they can help you with in terms of amplifying, answering stories, et cetera, providing content." That part of the app they love, and what they love about it is that it's gamified. And they're asking me, they came up, this is a talent acquisition person, mm-hmm. told me that they're going up, the employees in the company are going up to him and saying, I see I'm at number 11 in the company. How do I get to number 1? What do I need to do? Which is exactly the intent of gamifying it. Obviously, it's for fun. It's not anything too serious, but just that gamification piece and putting everything in one spot where employees can kind of compare themselves to each other in a fun way has kind of taken off. Again, and we had a hypothesis that it would, but it's always good to see it play out in practice. So
now, how does that work? Does the manager of the product kind of push out an invite to the employee? Give us walk us through that, if you would.
Yeah. So there's a few different kinds of things that we've already touched on a few of them. One being just, hey, answer this story for us. You're in the engineering team, answer what it's like to work on engineering. Your voice is more authentic than mine. So they send out that request. Another is, hey, we just had a bunch of these pieces of content on social media. They got really good engagement, but not the reach that we were hoping for. Can you send this out to them? Can you reshare, retweet this stuff? Mm-hmm. And then, there's other stuff like, hey, do you have some content? And you can prompt folks to crowdsource or sort of upload content into the system for you. It doesn't mean it's public, but it's in the system, which can be like herding cats if you're talent acquisition and you're trying to get all the photos from an event. So it makes those things kind of centralized and really easy for folks to do. And they're in just one spot. It's foolproof. It just sends a link, pings you through email, has a link that then sends you to the place that has all of the requests that talent acquisition has made for you. And that's where you can kind of see, what you've answered, what you haven't, where you stack up. So does that give you a good idea?
Yeah. How about time to implement? How quickly is it is it to get this product up and running within the company?
Yeah, I could take that. It's Jason here. It's fairly simple. I think with a lot of solutions these days, although maybe outside of applicant tracking systems, which are also cloud-based, obviously, but there's not a huge implementation component here. So everything's in the cloud. And so once you get set up with a login and a password for a talent acquisition who acts as the administrator, it's really about adding your employees who you think would be the best brand ambassadors into the system. And so that can be done, if there's a handful of folks that you think you want to start with and kind of test the waters, you can add those manually if you want. Or if you want to start and sort of dive right in and go 0 to 100 right away, you can, upload a bulk import CSV file of 1,000 people if you wanted to start that way. But I think we see a lot of companies, kind of start with maybe 10 or 20 or 30 ambassadors that they think might be good advocates for the brand. And once you do that, it's really all about it's about requesting them to sort of engage with the process and the tool. And so I think Vasilios alluded to this before, but with the story responses, what we call workplace stories, the tool comes with a bunch of templates that you can use to get started. And so there's not really much thinking there where, what should I talk about? What kind of topic should I write about? What sort of questions should I ask of my employees? There's templates right there to sort of make that easy for you. And so you can have, a couple stories out and going and your ambassadors in the system within, a matter of minutes and hours. And so that's really where you start to get the ROI, right? Where you start to get employees engaging with that content right away. And you can have your employees engaging with the platform, I'd say in a matter of minutes. It's fairly easy. Though I will say, and Vasilios kind of manages this part because he does handle customer support. We're always there sort of for companies to lean on for kind of strategic advice as well. Mm-hmm. So we do offer a bit of a more consultative approach to companies that want it and need it. And so that we call those kind of success sessions where we'll get on the phone with talent acquisition folks and, talk about how to get the most out of the tool, but also how to leverage it strategically and think about what the issues might be with engaging employees and ambassadors and all that kind of stuff. So, the technology can be used. You can sort of plug and play, but we're also there to sort of help you and guide you. Again, as an even more, I think, personal trainer outside of the software, if you.
And Jason, what about the costs? Give us a quick sense of what companies can expect here.
So it's based on probably taken away so far. It's really driven by your employees, again, are the lifeblood and they're the ambassadors. And so based on company size and usage, which is really driven by kind of the number of ambassadors that you're going to be leveraging in terms of your employees, we have a couple different tiers. And so that starts from at a couple $100s for smaller companies, which I think is fairly reasonable given some of the other prices they're paying for other recruiting tools that are out there. But bigger companies, it's up to a few $1,000s a month. So depending on the company size and the usage, it can range from a few $100,000 to a few thousand a month. And we do both annual and kind of month-to-month contracts. So, we do free trials as well. So, we're not locking folks into things that they don't get ROI or value from. And so we're definitely open to companies, and plenty do that want to sort of trial the software for a few weeks and see if it's something that they'll get good usage out of.
Awesome. Well, how do they get a demo?
A couple ways. So they can visit the website, www.firmplay.com. There's a big call to action, request a demo on there. You can't miss it. And they can also email myself directly, jason.rivas@firmplay.com. Either way works.
And well, guys, I think it's been a great talk, and I think a product like this, to me, which is one of the reasons I became an advisor, was because I think it's a needed product out there in the market. I think that no one teaches HR people how to be good at social recruiting, and to me, this is the closest thing that does that on the market today. So I'm very excited about it, and I know you guys are too.
Well, thanks for the kind words, Chris, and obviously for giving us the opportunity to talk and be on your podcast. But I would definitely say get started because, for two reasons. If you're not doing it now, then someone else is doing it for you. We always say that, you have an employer brand, whether you want to or not. Yeah. And I think talent acquisition folks get that. And the other reason is, again, if you're not doing it, then other folks are doing it for themselves, being your competitors. So the top ones have already been kind of have started down this path. So we always encourage you to just start small, but just start. So that's my kind of words of inspiration there.
Well, Jason and Vasilios, thanks for joining me today. And that's going to do it for this edition of the RecTech podcast. Follow me on Twitter @ChrisRussell or visit chrisrussell.io and check out Jason and Vasilios at FirmPlay.com. Great products, great service, great guys. More importantly. So that's it for now. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Chris.